London-listed Kavango Resources, Epic code KAV, is developing several key nickel, copper and rare earth assets. The group's flagship project is a huge north-south trending magnetic anomaly known as the Kalahari Suture Zone, or KSZ, where Kavango recently identified a number of new magnetic bullseye targets. The group also owns 100% of Kenya Resources, a company independently valued at $8 million and which owns licenses in the Kalahari Copper Belt, Ditau Farms rare earth projects, plus Kavango also has a further 2 joint venture licenses with LVR Geoexplorers in the KCB. I'm joined today once again by Chief Executive Ben Turney and Chief Ops Officer Brett Grist. Gentlemen, good morning.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having us.
Good morning, Alan. Good to join you.
Good to see you both again. So, gentlemen, a significant step forward this morning with a drill strategy published for the Kalahari Copperbelt licenses. You've now got a total of 188 viable drill locations over 13 priority areas. I'm going to bring some slides up. Can you tell us more about the strategy here, please?
Well, thanks for giving us the opportunity to present today, Alan. Brett will obviously take us through the technical side of this. I think it's good that our shareholders hear about the progress that we've been making from the man who's actually been making that progress. But just to introduce everybody, the Kalahari Copper Belt is one of the world's most exciting copper exploration provinces. It extends from the town of Maun in the northeast, in northeastern Botswana, down to Windhoek in the southwest in Namibia. There have been a number of major discoveries over the last 10 years on both sides of the border, and also quite a few large commercial transactions. Now, obviously, as we enter this period of the Green Revolution, there is a huge copper deficit that we are actually now starting to experience. The supply chain over the last 10 years has been heavily disrupted by the lack of investment, lack of exploration, lack of new projects coming online. And we're now entering this period where more copper is going to be needed over the next 10 years than's ever been needed in human history. So the overall outlook for Kavango and our exploration projects is extremely bullish, and we're looking in the right area as well. The copper belt is characterized by relatively low hanging fruit. The deposits are typically quite shallow, they're open pittable. They're not as complicated to mine as for example, the porphyries in Southern America, where you see a lot of current production in the world. We've had a huge amount of investment. We've got the Matheo mine that Sandfire is putting nearly $400 million into, with a huge processing plant that's very near to our licenses, that's scheduled to produce as much as 5 million tonnes of ore each year, process 5.2 million tonnes of ore per annum. So this really is a huge investment in the region. So everything is looking very bullish. We're in the right jurisdiction. We're in the right geological setting. We believe we picked up the right ground and we're using the right exploration methods. And over the last 18 months, we've put 80% of our operational resource has gone into development of the Kalahari Copper Belt. So we really have, we've done our work here. So Brett, shall I hand over to you on the next slide?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Ben. So obviously we've got the Kalahari Copper Belt here. The important message here is we control over 5,000 square kilometres. That's a really sizable holding, and it's good quality ground. I and Ben were recently out there, and we visited the main areas that we've been reporting the recent work on. These are located pretty much in the middle of the copper belt, along that central axis. The main areas we've been working on are license 82, which is more or less in the middle, the area that you can see highlighted in green. We'll be talking a little bit more about that later on. License 36, which is more towards the middle, adjacent to the town of Hanzi. And then we've got the Mamuno license package off to the west. Now, getting hold of licenses is really difficult. Kavango have done a great job of pulling this portfolio together. As you can see from the license map in the background there, showing other companies' license holdings, most of the KCB is taken. So for us to control this larger position is a great start. It's over to us to build on that. And that's really what I and the team have been doing since February of this year. So we've completed a really substantial soil sampling program, and that has been yielding results, which we're now looking forward to taking forwards. And that is delivering in terms of the drill targets that we mentioned earlier. So if we could have the next slide, please, Alan.
Of course.
Now, The beauty of exploring on the KCB is it is not a blind target. We have other deposits that have been found nearby. Sometimes in exploration, you come in and you've got to start from scratch. We don't have to start from scratch here. We need to learn from what is adjacent to us. And that's been our starting point. We've essentially been putting together a fingerprint for those adjacent deposits so that we can then characterize what we have within our own ground and use that to guide our future exploration, really shortening the odds in our favor. So this slide just summarizes some of those examples of deposits and the styles of hosting that are known to exist on the KCB. Next slide, please, Alan. Now, PL82, we recently released results on. What we've got here is a really fantastic pair of anomalies. We've got the central zone, which is 27 kilometers long. We've got additional infill sampling that's been taking place on that. And we're looking forward to reviewing those results in the near future. In the northern area, the northern zone, we've got a further 8-kilometer anomaly. So the significance here is sometimes you come in, you do a soil sampling survey, and you just get a load of noise. That can be due to surface dispersion of sediments. It can be down to sort of man-made activity. Here, we are seeing a very close alignment of the geochemical anomalies with the underlying geology. We're seeing in particular that those anomalies are lining up with contacts, with structural features that we're mapping in the field. We've got a peak value on license 82 of over 118 parts per million copper. So that's quite a strong anomaly. And in fact, I and Ben were out there only recently walking the ground, understanding what is there. In some companies, people get this type of data in and they just model it on the computer, and that's pretty much as deep as the analysis goes. I'm always in favor of getting out there on the ground, walking the ground, going to every single anomaly, understanding what it is you've got, what could be causing that. And then you can come back to the office, work on the computer, and integrate that with your other geological data, with your geophysical data sets, with your knowledge from adjacent licenses to come up with those final drill targets. And that's basically what we've been doing up until now. Next slide, please, Alan.
Okay.
So over on 36, we released this data a little bit before 82. What we're seeing here is the underlying geology that has been mapped by our teams. And this shows the value of the geological mapping. I think I've mentioned it before, but what we've got here is a structural repetition, possibly down to folding, possibly thrusting, but we've got that key Nguaco-Pan-Dakar formational contact, which is the main contact associated with mineralization on the KCB, which appears to be repeated on at least 5 occasions within this one license. We've then got a strong geochem anomaly, which isn't shown on this map, but is shown in our recent news releases, that sits around the nose of the fold there. So, for example, we've got the acacia anomaly. These are really solid anomalies coming together, a combination of geological mapping, geochem, geophysics. This is how exploration should work, and then it's over to us to convert those into drill targets to take forwards. And we're looking forward to advancing all of these in the short to medium term. Next slide, please, Alan. So the Mamuno licenses, this is the package of 4 licenses down on basically the sort of square apex of the border between Namibia and Botswana. And again, I was down there just recently. In the past, people have assumed there's thick cover there, that it would be very difficult to carry out exploration there, and that frankly, geochemical exploration wouldn't work. Well, we've come in, we've carried out a really solid geochemical exploration program there. We carried out geological mapping. There is cover, and that does make for challenges. But what we have got is a coherent anomaly sitting adjacent to what we think is the contact between the main formations there. The contact is a bit broader. Now, whether that's down to the primary mineralization or to dispersion in the sediments above it, we're not sure yet. And we will be carrying out further analysis through geophysics and bringing in other data sources to understand further what our targets represent there. But essentially, these licenses, 82, 36, and what we're coming up with on Mamuno, together are giving us the 13 targets for follow-up. We've then cast an eye over this to say, well, okay, how do we go forwards on this? What would our idealized drill program be? And obviously, you've got to have priorities. You can't do everything on day one. But we've got a really significant package here. This is something we can take forwards, and I'm really excited to get drilling on it. I'm getting on a plane over to Botswana next week. I want to follow up with our team on the ground and finalise turning these into drill targets.
Fantastic. Brett, in addition to the KCB assets, you have other copper interests with LVR Geoexplorers, also, I believe, further down on the South Guernsey Ridge. Will you be working on these in the near future too?
Yeah, sorry, Alan, just to clarify. So those LVR Geoexplorer licenses, so that's license 82, which I've just mentioned, and 83.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
But those two licenses add to the existing 10 licenses of Kanye, to give us an overall 12 licenses over the copper belt. And of course, we recently concluded the transaction with LVR regarding that. So looking forward to taking that 90% earn-in forwards.
Superb. Okay. On now then to the Kalahari Suture and the KSZ, which of course is your biggest project, north-south trending 450 kilometre by 50 kilometre magnetic anomaly in southwestern Botswana. You recently announced you were seeking a joint venture partner. Have you any updates on that for us?
So at the moment, obviously, we've got Tamasis working on our behalf, who have engaged with a number of different companies. The process is going well. We've got more NDAs that are out there. It's still early days on this, so we need to give it a bit more time just to let it percolate a bit. But I'm hoping we'll be able to have an update on that a bit later on this year. So right now they're working very hard for us. We're having regular calls with them just to see what the progress is, and we have a teaser that's out now. So there's a project overview which is currently being circulated. So yeah, it's all taking shape, but just not anything we can quite sort of talk about definitively just yet.
Understood. Well, Brett, obviously you've just said you're off out to Botswana, feet on the ground there again, so you can take a closer look at the copper projects out there. Can you summarise between you what else investors can expect in the coming months in terms of key value inflection points?
Drilling, Alan. I mean, we promised, we came into this year saying that we would drill all of our projects. At the beginning of this year, I said that I hope this would be Kavango's year of discovery. Whether we make that remains to be seen, but we've got 3 months, and I've set the team the challenge. We want to drill the best of our targets as soon as we can. So we're basically ready to do this. And as this morning's drill strategy showed, we're not short of targets. One of the key things I think we do need for people to understand, though, is how we've gone about prioritizing those targets. So, Brett, I think that's probably something maybe it'd be best if you could sort of talk a bit about.
Yeah. So we're really fortunate in Kavango in that we have, as per this morning's news release, such a range of targets to follow up on. That's actually a bit of a challenge. How do you choose which is the best of those to take forwards? So what we do is we've got multiple experts across the company. We've got myself, we've got Fred, our exploration manager, we've got Jeremy Brett, our consultant geophysicist, we've got Hilary Gumbo, our director, who's also a geophysicist, and both together and independently, we go through the data and we look at, what do we think offers the highest potential for exploration success? This is both in terms of the tenor of anomaly, but also, so if you're looking at the geochemistry, for example, the tenor of anomaly, the continuity, whether there could be external effects contaminating that anomaly. What does the overall situation look like in terms of structural setting, in terms of host lithology? So bringing in the geology from our geological mapping, bringing in the interpretation from the geophysics. So I set the task to my colleagues, okay, where would you like to drill first? I did that independently as well. We've all brainstormed, and then actually we've tended to come up with the same results. And that's the best way of doing it. It's essentially a sort of brainstorming of this. How can we come up with the very best drill targets? And we've got a good selection there. We have prioritized them, and we look forward to taking those forwards towards drilling as soon as we can. For me, it's getting on the ground, it's moving towards drilling and using that truth machine that this is all about.
It's worth
Okay.
also mentioning that we have significant external support as well. So our relationship with Spectral Geophysics and Kaz Lotter, we've publicised that a lot. Kaz has done a huge amount of work on the copper belt, so his guidance and his assistance is there in the background for us. But we've also recently engaged with a consultant, very well-known consultant. I won't mention his name at the moment because we're subject to NDA, but he's been heavily involved in the recent Cobre discovery and a number of other major discoveries across the copper belt. So having him review our data, review our decision making, that's also like one of the key sort of aspects that I've looked to improve in the Kavango ethos is to validate our thinking externally. So we've done that on the KSZ, we've done that at Dittel, we're doing the same at the KCB as well. So that extra support, it just gives us that sort of uninvested sense check just to make sure, help us keep on the right track and the right direction. And so far everything appears to be lining up, so we're hoping very, very soon to be able to announce our maiden drill campaign. As we said in today's announcement, the 37,000 meters, that's our long-term wish list. We'll be doing this in a number of different stages over time, and we're looking to commence that first stage very, very soon.
So a very busy couple of months then, prospect for Kavango resources, and a lot of news flow expected too, based on what you both said. Ben and Brett, it's been great talking with you again. Thank you both for joining us today. Please come back and update us as this news comes in.
Thanks for having us, Alan.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Alan.